12 months this week since Boris first gave us that instruction to stay at home. And in the course of that year, everything has changed so much. I remember when we were first told not to go out, my wife and I were looking ahead to a party at the beginning of May, and we sort of said, well, things might be back to normal by then. And I don't think any of us in sort of our thoughts considered that a year on, we might still be dealing with the consequences of COVID. And it set my mind to thinking about how we've had to sort of reset our lives over the course of the year gone by. And it made me think of a story that came through on email this week about a train that was losing time. It was working its way down the West Coast main line, and between each station, as it left Carlisle, as it left Penrith, Oxenholme and Lancaster, it was losing a little bit more time between each one. And it got to Preston, and the email that came through said the driver has been instructed, after speaking to maintenance, to stop at Preston and perform a full reset. It was time to stop looking at it and trying to stop ignoring it, and take a moment and reset everything and start again, in the hope that whatever it was, the problem with the unit would have been cleared. And it's the same with my laptop. And sometimes you get so much going on it, and you've got Teams open, you've got your PowerPoint open, you've got your emails open and everything else. Your computer starts getting slower and slower, and sometimes you just close everything down, turn it off and back on again to clear its memory and to clear it of the mess that it's in, and to start again. And as lockdown 3 sort of since January has moved on and dragged on, we've maybe found ourselves a bit like either that unit or my computer, and we're going slower and slower. Things seem to be getting tougher, and it's taking more resources. Maybe there's more warning lights than we were expecting. New lights just keep pinging up in yellows and reds to say things are tough. And for all of us, the temptation is to think that once lockdown comes to an end, whichever date we want to see that as, we just want to forget the last year and carry on with lives as they were. We want to just sort of say, well, I will put the year of COVID behind me, and I will now just start again like I was at the start of March 2020. And there's positives and negatives to what I'm calling the Control-Alt-Delete approach. There are ups and downs to doing that. The positives are we've all had things in the last year that we don't want to dwell on. We've seen friends separated from those we love. We've not been able to spend times with those we care about. We've seen things that we don't want to dwell on. We've maybe experienced grief that has been painful. And we think that the way forward is to just leave all that behind. And there's good things about not dwelling in all those tough things, but there's also real challenges about saying if we just forget them, we don't learn from them. But then there's also negatives about just switching everything off and starting again back in the mode we were in a year ago. We keep hearing the government and various people talking about building back better. Anything works as long as there's 3 words and they all begin with the same letter. And if we forget everything we've done in 2020 and 2021 so far, we'll build back a world with the same faults as they were before. In years to come, we'll ask, do you remember COVID? Do you remember that year? And we'll ask, what are the things we've learned? What are the important lessons? Don't live in last year, but let's learn from it and let's not forget it. I've got a friend who says I spent more time putting my child to bed last year than I have done in any of the other years that he's been alive. So let's be careful of those things we choose to throw out as we get into all these discussions about how hybrid working will happen, when we go back, what we go back to. Let's think about what we want to keep and think about what we want to throw out. Make those choices. Next weekend, the clocks change. We get that extra light in the evening. And I've already said that once that happens, I want to start making the most of the evenings and getting out. Let's live intentionally, that we don't accidentally pick up the wrong things from before, that we're destructive or negative in our lives. But let's remember from before COVID, what was good and we want to go back on. Those times sitting, drinking coffee and drinking other things with friends. And let's think about what wasn't so great. And let's leave that in the year that's gone. And let's live intentionally and positively for the future.